Hey, what's going on? Tyler Austin here, founder and CEO of REISift, and I want to eliminate you from making one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of companies make, especially early on, and that is hiring a VA too early or at the wrong point, or if even at all, right? So I'm gonna answer 4 questions for you today. Number 1, what does a VA even do in our company? What's their 3 primary purposes? Number 2, just some general questions to ask yourself before you even hire a VA. And number 3, where to get a VA. And number 4, after you hire one, like what's next? All right, what's going on? So before we even get into what are the 3 main tasks of a VA inside your company, I wanna make sure that we are making sure you understand what a virtual assistant, VA, even is. Because I think this is really, especially in the real estate industry, messed up. A lot of times when we think virtual assistant automatically, we're thinking somebody in the Philippines, and that's what you have, right? And you gotta watch who you hire because they're gonna be not speaking English very well. And listen, you gotta get the stereotypes out of your impressions of what VA is, what virtual assistance is. A virtual assistant is nothing more than somebody else who works not in the physical location of your company. I started off here at REISift. Most of you guys know Christina Towers. She technically, when she first started working with me, she was more of a virtual assistant because she was my executive assistant, and she doesn't live here, right? She lives in South Florida, so therefore I, case in point, hired a really expensive virtual assistant because there's different levels to them, okay? So just understand that a virtual assistant does not necessarily mean that you're hiring someone who's in a foreign country. In fact, calling them a virtual assistant is kind of meh. Really what you want to try to start using once you bring them into your company is one of your remote employees. They're a human being, there's someone on the other side of the, the phone. They have blood, skin, flesh. They are not some fictitious thing in the void, okay? So that's the very first thing to understand, okay? That virtual assistants are not someone just to be hired and fired. Okay, so the 3 main tasks of a virtual assistant inside of your company are going to be administrative tasks, it's going to be prospecting, and it is going to be lead management. Now, you can't have a virtual assistant do acquisitions and even dispositions, but these are the 3 core things that you're gonna have an administrative assistant or a prospecting assistant or a lead manager do, okay? So I'm just gonna kind of list off some of the things that I think that an admin VA is gonna do inside your company, the most common ones that you're gonna fire yourself from first, and that's gonna be pulling of data, so the weekly pulling of data, the monthly pulling of data, pulling those annual lists that need to be cleaned up. So that brings me to the next point, cleaning data. This could be data inside your incomplete section, inside your REISift account. This could be finding those LLCs of those properties. This could be, cleaning that actual list that you pulled that was kind of raw from the county that needs to be fixed up a little bit. There's a lot of different cleaning of data that can happen, okay? And then also like preparing stuff for marketing. This is probably one of the most important things that your administrative VA can do for you, because as long as marketing is going out, you can make sure that you can handle those leads and you can do the prospecting and all that stuff. But if there's no marketing going out, then there's nothing happening in your business at all. And it's typically the thing that gets forgotten about the most when you start in real estate or as you're trying to scale your company is you end up having those marketing campaigns slip. So making sure that that marketing is happening, you can offload to an administrative VA, because typically they're actually a lot better at these things than you are, because it's what they do, right? It's their skill set. So that's one of the biggest things. On the point of skill sets, one of the biggest mistakes that a investor makes, or anybody that's hiring a virtual assistant, is that they don't focus on hiring still based off skill sets. Because again, back to what I was saying earlier about what is a virtual assistant, they just think that it's like, oh, it's just a human that just does the things I need them to do. And instead of putting it like, okay, I'm looking for someone with the skill set, I'm looking for someone that has the tonality that I need, I'm looking for somebody that has the skill sets in Excel that I need, you're hiring them no different than if you're hiring an employee for any other really important role in your company. You're looking for them to have good, speaking skills. You're looking for them to have really good communication and personality. But if they're only going to be doing administrative tasks, do they need to be super fluent in English? Most likely not. However, is fluency and understanding of the American language, if that's where you're located, important for them to understand your tasks that you need them to complete? 100%. But that can be solved by you making sure that you have some of the questions that I'm going to cover next, which is, do you have the money for a VA? Do you have time? Can you calculate human ROI? Do you have a process in place? Because if you don't have a process in place, then there's really no reason to hire a virtual assistant yet. And all you're gonna do is hire them, and then you're gonna try and figure it out as you go, and now you're like paying them at the same time that you can't figure it out, and now they're confused because they really don't know how they fit in your company, and you're confused because you weren't prepared. Let's break these down a little bit and reference them back to kind of those skill sets that they need to have with admin, prospecting, and lead management. Process. If you're gonna hire somebody and it's going to be for administrative work, do you have Loom videos, for example, on how to pull those lists? Do you have a schedule in place in order to know when those lists need pulled? After they pull the list, where do they put the list? After they put the list in that place, do they skip trace it? Do they not skip trace it? They have to understand not only the front side of that, but they need to understand the back side as well on piecing that whole thing together. So making sure you have that flow chart, that diagram on that whole process, okay? For your prospecting, do you have KPI tracking? Do you have the ability from the start of a conversation to the end of a conversation, if this happens, what's next? If this happens, what's next? Luckily for you guys are here and inside this YouTube channel, and I actually have a video and a diagram, the whole diagram. We'll put it in a link in the description of what's called the Sensei Flow, which will literally handle that whole process on your prospecting and lead management side. So you don't have to worry about asking yourself, do I have a process or not anymore? Because you can literally download that diagram and like it's done for you. Human ROI, what is that? That's the ability to say, if I were to hire this person, it's gonna be $15,000 a year, let's say. Am I gonna get back 3 times that amount? Am I gonna get back 4 times that amount, okay? It's one of the most important factors of building a business, is making sure that you don't have more humans than you need. You can have people inside your company that literally do nothing, and they kind of just sit around and you're paying them a salary. They're there, you like them, they're good, they might have a task that they do, but it might not justify actually having them there because it doesn't actually produce a really good ROI for your company. The nice thing about a virtual assistant is that virtual assistants, that if they are in the Philippines or if they're in Mexico, and we'll talk about where to get VAs in a little bit, you have the ability to pay less, and so therefore that human ROI is a lot easier to get because of the fact that, well, it's $15,000 a year. If you get at least 1 deal a year from them, then at least they're break even. But typically you want one human to produce at least $125,000 in revenue towards your company, and that's a good metric to say. We say, okay, if at the end of the year, this person, this VA, produced an extra $125,000 revenue for us, but this one only produced like 75, well, you can see there's a difference in human ROI, okay? On that note, right, having money, right? If you're just getting started and we don't have $2,500 in the bank account, and we don't have these processes that I'm talking about, and we don't have this, this ability to calculate human ROI, well, then there's a good chance we're just going to be wasting money because we don't have everything that we need, so we don't know what our human ROI is. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make. They go to hire a VA, but they have no idea what they're even worth, and they don't have the processes, so therefore right now their value is 0. So what they need to do is they need to do all these things themselves. They need to build out these processes. They need to put these things in place so that they can figure out what they're worth. So what can they produce? Okay, if I'm able to produce $200,000 in revenue, then it's easy to say that somebody else, because no one else is going to be as good as you, but somebody else should be able to produce $150,000 a year in revenue, and therefore, if they're going to pay, I'm going to charge them this much, then they're going to be worth this much to me. Okay, so understanding your own ROI, and if not, right, because maybe we don't have time, so we're gonna, but we do have some of that money, we can start sacrificing some of that revenue and say, okay, well, I have some of these things in place, but I don't have too much time. It's the difference between not really having time and saying that you don't have time, by the way. Like, don't make excuses, like make the time, because you are trying to build a business. However, you need to use money sometimes to create time. okay, is essentially what I'm saying, right? Because time and money are created equal. Now, that $2,500 is really important to understand. Is this seed money for your company, or is this money that your business is investing into itself? I strongly feel that you need to have the business pay to hire and to grow, okay? Especially in a real estate industry. Now, if you have, 10, 15, or 20 grand in the bank, then okay, let's use seed money and let's start our company. That's okay. If you do not, then let's work our butt off. You yourself can do the Sensei flow, again, link in the description, and get at least a couple deals closed, get $20,000 to $30,000 in your business bank account, and now we can use some of that money to reinvest back into our business, okay? Now, where do you get one? If you fit the criteria and you're like, cool, I'm gonna hire one, where? Well, there's a few places. Number one, there's onlinejobs.ph. That's a Philippines sourcing location. You can put a job posting on there. Craigslist has been one of the best places for a lot of our users to put ads on in Craigslist Philippines or Craigslist in Mexico, there's a few other locations that they use outside of Mexico. But what we're seeing is a lot of individuals moving over to people in like South America and things like that for virtual assistants. There's a lot of US-based individuals that have implanted themselves over in those areas, so you get the benefit of them having the US proficiency in our language, and then you have the added benefit that they're in a country which our American dollar goes a little bit further, which is most of the reason why people use virtual assistants to begin with, is they're taking advantage of that international currency. Onlinejobs.ph, Craigslist posts, Facebook groups, and then obviously you have sourcing locations, right? If you're inside of the REISift Mastermind community on Facebook, you can just do a post on there and you will get tons of recommendations on people that have used VAs from different locations, and that's the only place that I recommend, that I trust, for you guys to get recommendations on sourcing agencies, okay? I believe that I've covered this pretty well from start to finish, including a little bit of extra things in the middle there that I think are really important for you to understand as you're scaling your company. Just remember that you're focusing on hiring to fire yourself. So you're gonna hire an administrative VA first so that they can handle all those admin tasks, while you're doing the prospecting, and then you're gonna hire a prospector to start doing some prospecting for you. Sometimes it's in lateral where you're still gonna do prospecting and you're hiring another prospector and you're doing it together, and then you're gonna get to the point where you're getting so many leads that now you're gonna be focusing mainly on lead management as yourself, and then you're gonna end up hiring a lead manager so that you can just focus on making offers, and it's gonna continue scaling up to where you're firing yourself from each of these positions, but you're making sure that you're covering those questions that I mentioned earlier, right? Do we have a process? Do we have a way to calculate human ROI? For each of those roles, as you fire yourself, you should be paving the path inside of your company and for this virtual assistant, okay? Sweet. Hopefully this was valuable to you. If it was, don't forget to thumbs up. Don't forget to comment below with any questions that you have, and hit the subscribe button, and head over to reisift.io and create an account and join the fun of properly turning prospects to leads and more leads to revenue inside your company. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.